Welcome to Film Study, an All American podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate the podcast 5 stars, all that good stuff. Here is me and Kelvin talking about Asher in seasons 3 and 4 and where we expect this very, very controversial character to go in 5 and beyond. So I hope that you enjoy this, and yeah, here it is.
Mm.
What did you think of the Miss the Asher I met over summer? What did you think of her?
Oh, jeez. Like, she was trying way too hard. Like, she was thirsty. I'm not gonna lie, she
She
was so
was
thirsty. Oh, my goodness. But
very
honestly,
much so.
you know, I couldn't have been. I mean, I, it was wrong for him. Well, he didn't cheat on her, but, like, it was kind of like emotional cheating, so to speak. I don't know. Were they on a break? Were they on a break or were they still
They
together? Because I kind of.
they had technically I think gotten back together before they sort of parted ways for the summer. But Olivia then said, "Oh, we were sort of kind of back together." Da, da, da. So it's sort of unclear where they stood, but officially they were back together before then. And
Yeah.
to I can't even say to his credit, but it was like after she got there, he did say that he had again a connection. They connected was his words, his phrasing for that. But he told Olivia, obviously Olivia was relapsed at this point,
Yeah.
and she was hiding a secret of her own. Um,
Right.
but it was just so on top of this summer secret that about Vanessa and him sort of trying to figure out his feelings on that end, he had trouble reconnecting with Liv because of her situation with Spencer. So what
Spencer.
did you think about for this is so interesting. So for a fan who's not as into the relationship stuff on the show, what did you think about watching all that take place?
Man, it was just a whole damn mess. It's just a mess. Because, both of them do what they did. Like, they did things that they weren't supposed to do. But even Asher, if you pick it up, he even picks up on it that something's off with Liv because she's really acting weird around Spencer, and then when he wants to talk and be open about how her summer was and whatever, she's just trying to put it on the back burner, and then we culminate to everything that's happened when we get to 306 when everybody gathers around the cabin. So it was just something that was continuously building and building. And I mean, he's not innocent either because he started cultivating type of feelings for Vanessa because she was there with him that whole time in Mexico. I don't know why they never gave us a little bit more context about what they connected on in the first place. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more into that, but somehow,
Right.
but
It was like they just apparently talked about everything, but interesting.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, we needed a little bit more from that aspect. But even, even, even in 306, like when she's trying to spend time with him, she's like, "You don't think you'll be a little bit too busy?" Or his comment, "Why are you always trying to give Spencer what he needs?" Like even though I could tell that he peeped that something was going on between the two of them. He even told Layla that he was like, "They seem closer than ever. You ever wonder what we missed?" So in the back of his mind, he even knew that there was something going on. Like he felt like the relationship had changed, so to speak. So when it culminates into that argument they have in 306, it's like, oh boy. I mean, I get what you're saying, dog, but like, I mean, she was really really good to you. Like she made you a better person, and for you to
Yeah.
be like, I didn't need you to do all that. That's kind of,
That bothered
yeah,
me so
it is,
much. That bothered
yeah.
me
That
so much because it's just like it was this line for me from him at the cabin when he said, I'm realizing that that's not working for me anymore." It was like something along those lines. And it's just like, are you insane? Like she
yeah, and
and this is not exaggerating. She saved your life. You were living in a car and she found you a place to stay. You were drinking out the wazoo, and she, got you to stop drinking. Like, you were taking steroids at while she wasn't at I just that for me was sort of the epitome of Asher's character when it comes to football and when it comes to his interpersonal relationships. Not on his parents' end of the thing, but, when it comes to, him not being accountable for what he's done and him not being grateful for what other people have done for him. Just like, and we briefly touched on this, but just like he wasn't all that grateful for what Spencer did with for him, fixing the car in season 1. So I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, that whole argument was that was a lot. Honestly, it was like I got where he was saying like he appreciated everything that but at the end of the day, this girl kind of got you out of a dark place. So for you to like say that you don't want that is didn't make any sense. But I did get what he was saying about is like the fact that she wasn't honest to him about what he was doing with like Spencer. Like he was saying, I was very very upfront with you about everything. Me and Vanessa, I told you, and but you felt guilty about stuff too. And then him saying, "You think I don't see how much time you and Spencer are spending around?" Oh, it was like he was like it's like he felt like he needed to get that out. And unfortunately, honestly, I mean, it just wasn't meant to be because at the end of the day, even I knew, and I'm not a particular shipper of these ships and stuff. I mean, it's cute and all, but I don't watch it for all that. But I even knew in the back of my mind they're not going to last because her heart is with somebody else. She's in love with Spencer. I just think she was going with
Right.
Asher just
Period.
to distract herself from Spencer. And
Exactly.
given given if Spencer wasn't in a relationship with Layla, and if Spencer had told her that he was in love with her, well, she didn't at that time in Vegas, but if they weren't together, she would definitely be with Spencer. So I knew that it wasn't going to last. But even though things ended, and I'm pretty sure the fans of Olivia were happy that she wasn't with Asher anymore, I'm glad that it didn't get super, super messy because even after she relapsed and then everything gets resolved and she gets back into a better place, like that conversation they had when they were at Grace's graduation party, like
Right.
it seemed like they
It's
just
very
it was
short.
cordial,
Yeah.
right? It was nice. So it was like,
That
you
was the
know
last
what,
time we ever got them on our screens.
right? And I think that's okay. I mean, they had a season. I mean, she was there for him to help him shape himself into being a better person, and she did that. So she served her purpose. So I mean, it was all good, and I'm glad that things ended. I'm glad that it ended better because I did feel some type of way about how things ended between him and Layla, only because like she broke up with him. He tried to get back with her, and like she already said she was with Spencer, and he was heartbroken. But I think this one was a little bit more. It was a better closure for me because they both understood where they were, and they just move on. And sometimes that just happens in life. You have this person in this season, they serve their purpose, and but it is what it is, and I think they did what they had to do, and I'm glad that I'm glad that they're on better terms now. I mean, even though we don't get much interaction with them from time to time, I generally think that they're still pretty good friends. So, I mean, it's
I
cool.
would yeah, I think I would like him to really acknowledge who she's been to him. I think first and foremost as a friend, because I don't know if he's truly acknowledged that yet. Like, I think that they're fine. I think that they're in a good place or whatever. Obviously, it's been over a year at this point, but she really did a lot for him as a friend. And I just would like to see the writers explore a little bit more, um, on his end, him really caring for her back as a friend, like him checking in on her, checking in on how her sobriety's going, like different things like that, just because of how much she did for him. Because that relationship to me wasn't all of that, all that reciprocal. So I just would like to see a little bit more more on his end towards her towards her. But it's fine where they're. I think it's fine that they don't like interact. I think it's weird. I'm fine with it as a Liv fan, but I think it's weird because we've seen them for the past 3 seasons, and then it was like never again.
Yeah,
So that was like I
yeah,
was not expecting the writers to do that, but it'll be interesting to see how they sort of move forward as like acquaintances, friends, because I do think that they care a lot about each other.
yeah, they
Um,
do. And then I know probably deep down he still has love for her and appreciates everything she did for him. I think, like you said, we need to see that, you know, side where he acknowledges that she did a lot for him, and he probably needs to acknowledge that. So hopefully, maybe the next fifth season we get a little bit more of that. Hopefully, that gets resolved. I'm crossing my fingers, but we'll see.
Yeah, or just finding different ways to support her, finding different ways to support her. 'Cause I'm even thinking of like at right after she relapsed too, he was mostly there for Jordan. He was like getting Jordan food, and we didn't really see him come back and be like, "Oh, I hope everything's okay." So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do in season 5. We'll get to predictions in a second. Um, but obviously on the other end of season 3, a his other story was sort of getting back on the team again
Yeah.
with this new coach, with Coach Montez. I think that she also had a soft spot for Asher. I think that she rooted for Asher in a lot of ways. Uh, even when he maybe wasn't like performing the best or paying attention, like in film study sessions. Uh, no pun intended.
Uh,
But even when he was performing the best, she let him come back on the team. She switched him to defense. He was upset about that, but obviously came around to it. Um, and then that sort of started his coaching journey. So that happened at the same time he got a stepdad, is still reconnecting with his mom. Um, with all of those good things going right, something had to break. Uh, uh,
mm,
a, a pinnacle had to be reached. A pressure point had to be popped. As we've talked about, that he really hadn't realized sort of the full accountability of all of his decisions up until then. And so it was like at the time where it was going the best for Asher, he was in a good spot with his friends. He was in a good spot with Spencer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's about to play in his second championship game, and he finds out that he has a heart condition. So
cardiomyopathy.
boom,
Yeah.
cannot play, not just in this championship game, but period. So where did you think? What did you think about that ending out the season like that?
Well, I can see why people always make this comparison to One Tree Hill. That was very One Tree Hill esque with
Yes, it
this.
was.
So honestly, I never shed tears on the TV show, but I'm not gonna lie, I shed a thug tear when I saw that on my my TV screen. I really did because I felt
I was just like, why did they
so.
let they could have had this man play the game.
Yeah, yeah, but I felt so bad for him because like you said, everything was going right. He had gotten to a better place with all his relationships. He had told Vanessa that he wanted to focus on football. That was his love, and he was actually doing it. I mean, even in that whole episode, he was doing the right thing. Like he, I kind of saw something like this happening, but I didn't think it was going to be a heart condition. I just thought it was going to be an injury because if you remember in that episode, he took a big hit during practice. I'm like, ooh, that looked like that hurt. So I was like, it's probably just going to be some rib injury. He'll be fine. And then even during he found out about Jordan and Spencer secretly training. He's the one who diagrammed the plays, and he even helped Jordan get some plays into the game. And even during that fight on the bus at the fight, when the fight happened, he's the one who came to. He's like, "Hey man, I'm the one who told Montez, okay?" And he did the right thing there. But to see his dad, who we knew that they never had the greatest relationship, but they kind of salvaged it. For his father to have to come and break the news to them that they found that you have cardiomyopathy and that you can't just not play in this game, but you can never play football again. Man, I tell you, I really felt bad for him. And I know a lot of people probably who don't like Asher were like, maybe that's what he gets. But for me, I'm like, this guy, like, he just can't catch a break. I know he never suffered the consequences for what he did, but I did not want that for him. I really, really didn't. And I gotta say, man, Cody Christian did that thing when he was just he cried and threw his gear and was like just distraught. I'm like, I really, and even I could see it in Montez because Montez kind of felt bad too because she
Sorry,
had,
I just thought of the meme.
oh my,
Tell me you
yeah,
see that meme of her crying in the corner. No, but Cody, both of them are really great, great actors. Cody crushes it all the time, but you can't bring up my
yeah,
reaction. I am always going to laugh because of that meme.
right. But in generally, I felt bad for him because it. I mean, uh, sometimes what goes around comes around and you reap what you sow, but I wanted something else. I did not want this for him. I really like let him just sit out this game and then he could play next time. But for him to not be able to play football ever again, it was really, really tough, man. And I'm glad his dad told him because it was already emotional. It was already a crazy ending to that season with Coop getting shot. I don't think the characters could handle Coop getting shot and then after playing in this championship game and all of a sudden he collapses on the field and has a heart attack and then he has to get rushed to the hospital. I don't know if we could emotionally handle two people being in the hospital. So I'm glad that they didn't go down that.
Great, right? It was, yeah, it was like somebody
Yeah,
missing, somebody shot, somebody collapsing. But I get
yeah,
you. I get you. I just, yeah, I think for me it was more about feeling bad about the when it happened. Like I would have liked to see him not be, but I mean that's TV. You got to make it good, right? But I would have liked to see it
yeah.
be like way before the game, like not as he's literally about to
About to
go.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
and,
it was
and that's not even the worst part. We also found out in the episode he got the scholarship to Coastal California, so
right.
that's now
Yeah,
that's
so
that's
that's a good
now
point.
gone. So it's
Well,
like
and that's
I felt
that's going into season 4. Going into season 4, he tries to get this situation checked out. Like Montez helps him. His mom isn't for it, and things like that, and still not being necessarily the most supportive parent. But he finds out for sure that he can't play. He almost goes back into old Asher a little bit. Drinks it. Layla's birthday party. Obviously, he loses the scholarship. JJ ends up getting it. He wasn't happy about that. Like he went through it. I gotta say, once he started drinking at granted, like there was nothing for him to drink, but once he was like going to drink, I'm just like, Asher, you're making an enemy out of me.
you know what? I can't really get mad because it's like despair. You know what I'm saying? It's like you find out that this is of your own duty. It ain't like it was like a genetic condition like he inherited from, you know, it's like a gene or a trait. Because normally those type of conditions happen when that's like something hereditary that gets passed down.
Right.
It was of his own doing. And I think
Yeah.
that's where I feel like it. I mean, I wouldn't have been mad if he had to take a drink because I drink too if I knew I'm the reason why I can't play the game I love anymore. But you know, we all have to we all have to deal with the consequences of our actions, and he never
Right.
really dealt with it. But the good thing that I did appreciate is that after all that, he didn't spiral out of control. I
Me
mean, I
too.
think yeah, and I think he was reserved into that, and it helped him go into his next calling, which is coaching where he can channel his football knowledge into that. So I, I'm glad
Yeah, and
that yeah.
I think that where we really saw a turn from him is that he didn't, though he had his moments. I'm gonna skip the whole. No, we'll talk about it. I want to go,
I think I know where you're going.
but
And let's just say for the record, I ain't mad at it.
I'm gonna skip. It was
Yeah.
a truly just what is going on moment of the season. Pleased by it.
Oh boy.
He and Layla, in the midst of them trying to figure out mutually what was going on with the two of them. Had a little what was it called? It was called a little celebratory sex between
You
friends.
know what? Considering that the dude had taken too many L's from the you
No,
you you get kicked
no,
off you
no,
get kicked off the football team. You have a heart condition, all that.
no.
I'm like, you know what,
Outlive,
bruh? Player, go
outlive,
on, play
outlive,
on, player,
outlive,
play
but
on, player.
I don't want that
Yeah.
man with either of them. I don't want him with either.
Well,
I'm glad for Jamie. I think Jamie's gonna be good for him because I think that she, in other ways that I don't think other Olivia or Layla did, is Jamie. I think and I want to be careful, but it's almost like forces him to be accountable, right? Like I feel like both Olivia and Layla were just like, oh, Olivia more so over the course of 3 seasons that we saw. Obviously, Layla was sort of like we never really understood why they were together in the first place. But even in season 4, the little bit of time that they did spend together, she would like give him advice, sort of like they would baby him for a little bit. They would baby him a little bit, and I don't think that Jamie does that. On average, I think that she really is just like you can take or leave like what I'm offering you, and I love that for him. And let's not forget the biggest baby year ever, who is Vanessa, Miss the Asser I met over summer.
yeah,
So that was interesting to see them both have that moment together. To your point, it I don't know if it was closure. I think it was just like I think that was closure. I think it's just like they always had this sort of relationship that it was just like that they're not really meant to be together.
yeah. You know what? Like I said, it was closure, and he admitted that that was his first love, and sometimes you need to, just close the chapter on it. And honestly, he's like, you know, I I think he said that to just let her know that, hey, look, I know how we never ended things properly. It was kind of messy, but with me losing football and all this, I just began to realize, how much you mean to me, and like, I don't know how. I have to rewatch it. I don't know how that conversation went, but I think they were both kind of acknowledging how they both changed from where they were when they started dating. I don't know how it was established, how long they'd been together before this prior start of the series, but they're now better people from when they were there. So it was kind of like a closure thing. And you know what?
Yeah, I
Sometimes,
think I think
yeah,
it was again, I think it was they were mutually sort of going through things at that point. Obviously, through we know that Asher was very noticeably going through finding out that he had lost football and trying to get into coaching and et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't official that he was going to go into coaching at that point, so he was still trying to figure out his way. I think Layla was in a place that she was truly at her lowest because she was pushing everybody away, as we found out later in 6. And throughout the rest of the season, because of what happened with Carrie. So um, it was a really weird point for the both of them.
yeah. Sometimes that's life, But I'm
Exactly.
glad, yeah, I'm glad that he closed that chapter in his life. She closed that chapter in her life, and they both
Period.
moved on. And they ended amicably. So, and
Period. I love that for Layla and Olivia. I love that for them.
y'all make it
Haven't
as if this
seen
dude
them
was
with
such
that
a
man
terrible
since.
guy. Oh my
Conversation.
goodness! But
Except for the vortex conversation, they've been like, bye, bye to this man. They're like, Kiki Palmer. I don't know who that man is.
yeah, well, yeah, but
I'm
it
messing with.
happens.
It
I
does.
get it, but
But like we were saying, he did turn a corner, and instead of spiraling further, he sort of turned his life around. Obviously, got decided to become a coach.
yep,
Met Jamie, as we said, had a really good impression on her. They, after some difficulties, they start dating. He gets his first job, like works at his stepfather's restaurant, gets a booking job for like 2 seconds, and then leaves it. I know a lot of fans were upset that that storyline did not continue, but gets his first job to pay for school, and really is trying to do his best, trying to be a good coach. Obviously, he comes into his first challenge when he has to do a scouting report on GAU. Um,
Spencer.
yep, and I think Spencer and Jordan, and so he fails that assignment as a friend. He fails that assignment as a
Yeah,
friend to Spencer, and they have their first sort of confrontation since way back in season one. So, what did you think about that, especially considering who he was to JJ, like making sure that JJ was eligible? How do you think he handled that differently between like JJ and Spencer, and then eventually getting it right, in the finale with Jordan and knowing that his hand was probably broken?
you know, honestly, for me, I know that it was kind of a misstep, and I know we haven't mentioned him, but Billy has a part of this too because he went to Billy
Oh,
for
a
advice
huge
about
part.
how.
He's Billy, and I will say this: if there's one, I said that Asher escapes unscathed for the most part. No, it's literally Billy. Billy is. I don't understand how does he keep getting away with this? How does
Yeah,
he keep getting away with this?
yeah, yeah. Billy had a kind of a hand in this too because Asher went to him for advice, and he said sometimes as a coach you have to dig deep and use the weaknesses or whatever against the opponent. And I guess he just so in that aspect he did his job. So, but at the same time, Spencer, it wasn't Spencer's scouting report to read in the first place. I know the computer was just laying out there, but it wasn't his place, and he even acknowledged that. But it just kind of culminated into this, and this had never been fully established. There's even though they were in amicable place and they were good, there were still some unresolved issues that between the two of them that never got addressed. So it culminates when we go to the Halloween party and they still not talking, and then even Asher has to. Asher said he didn't even want to go to the party, right? Coop had to, convince him to go. And I kind of side note, I kind of like how Coop and Asher are now cool now. That's a
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
I forgot about that. They also bonded over their misery,
yeah,
for sure.
Rizri, and it was a pretty interesting friendship. But going back to that, yeah, this thing between him and Spencer is like it had been unresolved, and like I felt like this is one of the things that had never been addressed. So when they have their fight, it I feel like for him, he needed to get that out because it's still something that's harboring deep inside him that he's never really been able to let go. You know what I mean?
And they had a mini they alluded to it earlier in the season when Ash
Right.
said, "I'm not ready to have or like
That
yeah, I'm not
conversation.
ready, yeah, that conversation, or I'm just not in the mood to have that conversation," something like that. So it
Yeah.
was a long time coming for sure. We're bringing up 318 when we expected them to have that conversation because it was closer to Vegas and closer to all of that. But instead, we get this speech from Asher about how Jordan is the glue, and despite girls, that they're still friends and everything. And I feel like everybody collectively was like, "What? This is what you're saying?"
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think the only reason why they're good is because of Jordan. Jordan is kind of like the link between the two of them because Jordan and Spencer formed this brotherhood, and then Jordan and Asher have been boys since they were 5 years old, talking about we're gonna get bunk beds together in college and play football and all that whatever. So, but yeah, that whole confrontation between the two of them that I felt like that needed to happen. Like the fact that he had to bring up the fact that he stole my girlfriend's not once but twice and my spot on the team, and then Asher had to, but he came weak, man, because Spencer hit him with a, okay, you really want to go here? First of all, I wouldn't have to take them so easily if you did slut shame one and cheat on the other. I'm like, damn. Like, and I don't know if this was a writing mistake, but does Asher not know about what happened in Vegas between Spencer and
I
Olivia?
was really upset. Upset. I was literally not going to talk about it, but since you brought it up, I was just
So
like, Asher had what is essentially a trump card in relation to the whole Layla Olivia thing, because all he had to say was, "Didn't
Yep.
you didn't you tell one of them that you were in love with them
Well,
and then sleep with the other one
sleep
2
with the
seconds
other.
later knowing that they're best friends?" Hmm?
Yeah, could have hit him with that, and then Spencer wouldn't have had anything to say after that.
Nothing. So
Right.
I think that we
But
deserve the best out of their fight, to be honest with you. I don't think
yeah,
for as long as this things have gone unsaid between the two of them, um I feel like the fight should have been bigger.
yeah, it was kind of a letdown if you ask me. And he was dressed apart because I peeped the fit he was wearing. He looked like a straight up mob boss with this blazer and his turtleneck, and he got a whole full beard. I'm like, okay, and a chain. I'm like, okay, Asher, you looking so gangster. I'm feeling that. So I wanted him to, you know, bring that same energy into that, but we didn't get it. But I think at the end of the day, they had to, squash whatever unresolved issues that were between the two of them because of what they witnessed with JJ saying that he's afraid that everybody's growing apart and he doesn't like it
Right.
when they fight. Now I don't know if they're family, so to speak, but
I
I,
don't believe
I
that either.
but you know what? Maybe. I think the only reason why they're together is because of the other people, like JJ and Jordan. They're the ones that kind of put the four of them together. So it's like you have to kind of be amicable with those guys because you're cool with the others, so to speak. So, but I think moving forward, they're gonna be in a better place, and I don't think there should be any other issues between the two of them because I think they said what they needed to say. Only thing I
Right.
was disappointed with was I think even though we all love Spencer and we love him down, that's the hero of this story. He's the main character. He
Period.
needed to he needed to take accountability of how he did my boy Asher wrong though. I mean you
Boy,
did plot you did you I mean you knew that Layla was in a relationship with him and you still kissed her and then you told Olivia that you were in love with him when they were still together. So like I mean I can't let you slide on that, you know what I'm saying? But
well,
other than that, he's good with me. So
well, they to your point, they figured it out,
yeah.
and he, like I said, he came back around, had another, I'd say, test, right, of
Yep.
the friendship and made it right for the homecoming game, which EAU ended up winning. Uh,
Yep.
so that's sort of where we leave off. He's in a good spot with Jamie. He's
Yeah.
being invited to hang out with the coaches after finally
Yeah.
he might get like a full maybe coaching assistantship after his performance uh,
Right. Right. Right.
for Coach Montez. And where do you see him going into the future now that the thing with Spencer has been dealt with?
Yep.
Like you said, I think both he and Olivia and he and Layla are. It seems like that's both. They all understand where they lie. So, what do you think?
Mm. Well, yeah, I'm gonna start with Jamie. I think out of all the girls that he's been with, this is gonna be the one that's gonna probably be the best fit because she's such a sweet girl, and I pray to God that this lupus thing doesn't be because it. I don't know if you've seen this movie. This is very Walk to Remember
Oh
ish
yeah,
type.
it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, and we know how that movie ends and how it helps the guy become a better person. So for his sake, I hope that that's not the road they go down. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But I'm crossing my fingers. But in terms of where he goes from here, I don't know. Just continue to be the best coach that he can be. Continue to be a great support system, and not just her, but all the friends in the friend group. And I think I don't know where else they could go with this story because I feel like I think that he's had a full arc. We've seen him
Yeah,
from season one go from this privileged white guy who probably doesn't, he thinks he's all that and he doesn't, see himself as, he doesn't hold himself to account to where he is now a pretty good dude who's loyal, who loves his friends and is like just probably trying to take it one day at a time to be the best version of Asher he can be. And I just think he'll just play more of a support role, like especially with JJ. I think
Yeah.
JJ is probably going to have a lot more development next season because I feel like we saw some emotional bits from him. From his story about his uncle to what he said to the friend group during the party. I feel like if they go down a road where JJ's in an emotional state, I think Ash will be the one to be the support. And I mean that's it. I really don't know what else they can do. I feel like he's still going to be on the show, but I just don't know if they're gonna do anything else. Like I feel like he's redeemed himself from season one to now, so like we've closed the chapter on him, so to speak. I'm not saying he's not still gonna be there, but it's like I don't know what else they could do unless they want
It
to
is
throw a
true.
different challenge. Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing just as we were getting closer to predictions. I'm like, they more than anybody else on this show, apart from Grace, who we know is like moving, and we know that they have a ton of characters on the show in number one, so they do need to find ways to like lessen people's roles, especially if they as they bring in people that bring in new and interesting dynamic, like a
yeah.
Wade or like a Jamie or like a Sky. Uh,
Davita,
it'll be interesting. Yeah, and Davita, and so like they have all of these sort of roles that they're bringing in it, but I feel like for the main cast and the cast that's been sort of a part of it from the jump, Asher is the one who has had the most complete story and left on the most closed note. I think that everybody else is pretty open, like you mentioned, JJ having those more emotional moments, even including the cabin in that the
right,
cabin season. So it will be interesting to see what they do. I think most of his things will come with Jamie. I mean, I hope that we see her. I think this builds a good dynamic, and I could see Asher them moving Asher into a role of like also being one of the people that keeps the friend group together, especially if they're giving JJ more of an emotional weight. I could see Asher moving into
yeah,
that role, especially because he did a little bit in season's 3 finale where he was like breaking up the fight and different things like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. They're definitely keeping the girls at the Bakers and the guys at the beach house, and we know that they have that for like a year. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the dynamics that come out of that and what new challenges him being a coach might be. Like, are they going to talk about transferring? Are they going to transfer him to GAU and roll the storyline? I don't know. We'll see.
well, now that you mentioned it, they could do this. What if it comes out that the coach, Mr. Montez, finds out that Jordan's hand was broke and that
Right.
Asher knew about
I
it
thought they were
and
gonna
didn't
allude
say
to that.
anything?
He was just like, "Oh, inviting you to dinner." So I'm like, I guess he didn't know.
Yeah, that's something they could do there too. I
It
mean,
is. That
so
is.
yeah, I
So
mean,
they're
it's a
pretty
whole.
open on Asher's end. I'm not quite sure. I haven't quite thought through what we're gonna see with him in the next season. But yeah,
We'll see what happens.
we'll see what happens. This was awesome. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. I mean, and I'll just say this for those who don't like him. I mean, just I'm probably like the lone person in the community that vibes with this dude. So, like, if you get it, if for those who haven't watched it, take the time to watch all 4 seasons, and you'll see the full depth of this dude. And maybe you don't necessarily have to like him, but you can tolerate him. And I think that's where I want people to be. You know what I'm saying?
I feel
So
like I'm in the tolerate range.
yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Thank you for listening to Film Study and All American Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.